me and, doing all kind of little things. So I tried to teach him how to do that move where what it is you step forward, you either see the hole is closed or there's a lineman in front of you. And then what you do is you hop backwards and then you hop to the side and then you go another direction.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can do the little do-si-do dance here. Hello, everybody. Jim West, Gary Richmond, and Dale Ross, and we are with Talking Preps Friday night. Okay, 112 games in the North Carolina High School Athletic Association was played tonight, and I believe we have the scores for all of them. Plus, we got some independent scores that we'll go through. I guess we can start with the lower classes. East Columbus, North Stokes. It's hard to believe one of those teams will be in the Elite Eight, but they are. East Columbus wins 32-21. Dale, Robbinsville, just on the roll here.
Yeah.
And that South Davison, I think South Davison actually won that game. I saw the score was South Davison 27, Rosman 48, but our 8. We'll check on that. I think that's the case. That score might be inverse. Thomas Jefferson did beat Winston-Salem Prep 43-0. Nothing to look at here. That bottom part, I won't go through all their scores real quick, but Wilson Prep beats Southeast Halifax 64-40. Dale, I like Wilson Prep.
Well, I liked them last year, and I like them more this year. So, yeah.
That's a good team. Kit Pride is another team. Northside, another really good team. Bear Grass Charter, I'm sorry, that's over in Martin County. If you've ever been to Bear Grass, you have officially seen the very far end of the world. So it is middle of nowhere. About 30 minutes away from my in-laws, by the way. So you can see my in-laws from there. Next week, East Columbus plays Robbinsville. That's a very far drive. Gary, have you ever been to East or to Columbus County before?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, if you go from Lumberton to like New Hanover County, Wilmington, you might go through it. Whiteville and Tabor City, and
I had some college classmates from that area, but I've never been.
Okay, I understand.
Needless to say, that's going to be a drive. Just
Oh, I agree. And being that South Davison is playing the third round, I guess they did beat Rosman today, 27-8. So they're playing Thomas Jefferson next week. In the East, Bear Grass Charter, I believe, is playing, I think, Southeast Halifax. Okay, let's go to the 2As, see what we have here. Hopefully we'll have some scores in just a little bit. I know that Tarboro won again. Gary, have you heard about the Tarboro Invitational? You familiar with that term?
Yes, I am, because they are always the favorite to come out of the East in the 2A. So I'm assuming that's where that comes from.
No, exactly. A long time ago, back in the 80s, when there was 4 classifications, Tarboro was a 3A school. And guess what? They'd win championships back then, too. So they were just loaded. I think in the East, it's all Tarboro. Everybody can see the scores. I was doing a count, guys, and of the 112 games, 77 of them were decided by more than 20 points. Only 35 were within 20 points today. Still a lot of lopsided victories.
Too many games.
Especially here in the East. So look at that. Well, I shouldn't say especially in the East because look in the West. It's.
There was one terrible. Big surprise for me. Mountain Island Charter beats Allegheny 7-6. Allegheny was a team that has been really on fire. Mountain Island Charter, though, they have a lot of talent. They have a good coach over there, Coach Washington, and I think Mountain Island Charter shows that they're a team to look out. Murphy Albemarle, the Battle of the Bulldogs. Murphy wins. No surprise
Big
there, guys.
the Mountain Murphy wins, yeah, or Mountain Bulldogs. Uh, Nothing else,
So,
that Cherville really got stepped on too.
Starmount's so good. Unbelievable. Corvian, that's a team I like. They beat North Rowan 45-7. That's a very good win. That community school of Davison beating Swain County 65-13. I was really surprised that was a running score game. I thought it was going to be fairly competitive. That was an 8-9, and Swain County's no pushover.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Jim, tiers of teams, and we'll talk about that later because when we get to the bigger classifications, tiers of teams.
Tell you what, there's some great matchups in the West next week. Murphy Community School of Davison, that's going to be a great game. Corvian and East Oaks, another good one. The only game I see that's would be lopsided is the South Stanley at Starmount. So I think Starmount will win that game pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to the Rebel Bulls in my home county.
I'm still picking Corvian out of the West, but I think Community School of Davidson can possibly be a roadblock.
No, I agree. Murphy, Starmount. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in the West. And, the West is always, it seems like every classification is deeper. East always has one or two really good teams, but the West just got a really much more deep, So I tell you what, let's go on to the 3As, see if we've got anything out here. Again, a lot of lopsided scores.
I knew that was going to be a good game. Lincolnton, Hendersonville. I knew that was going to be a good game, and it turns out it was.
Yeah, that was a really good one. That was about what the score I thought was going to be, too. Both those teams have good defenses, and both of them can light up the scoreboard.
Man, I am so disappointed with the score right underneath that.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I expected them to win, but, obviously I did not expect them to win, but come on. Hey, you're North Stanley. Look at there.
Yeah, we're going to be in the third round.
How about that?
Yeah, 49-45. That was a pretty good win for my alma mater. Shelby, East Rutherford, that was, to me, was a game that could really help decide how the 3A West goes. Both of those teams, to me, were like legitimate, at least semi-round teams, and they had to play in the second round.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Shelby's one of those teams with not as many wins as you might people might like to see, but then we know who all they played. That's a dangerous team here in the 3A West.
Gary, any comments?
No, I'm just shocked at all the points that they scored. I mean, even in the losing teams, they're scoring a lot of points. I mean, it's like they're playing basketball on a football field.
Well, Gary, that's 99 points in the Shelby Rutherford game. You're right. That's like a basketball score.
Yeah. 94 points in the North Stanley East Surrey game. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting though. North Stanley and West Davison are going to be playing in the third round, so one of those teams are going to make it to the semifinals. And I'm sorry, I do not want to offend anybody over in Tyro or wherever it is in West Davison, and I sure don't want to offend anybody in New London because a lot of those people have a lot of dirt on me. I just don't see either one of those teams being one of the top four teams in the West. It's just the seeding's just crazy this year.
That's true, but then also, Jim, I'm not saying that applies here, but you just do keep in mind sometimes teams catch fire towards the end of the season at the right time, and they can have decent playoff runs. I'm not saying that applies, but it is something to keep in mind.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you remember last year when Rose, 3-7, all of a sudden they caught on fire. In the East, James Keenan, Walls Rose Hill, they played the last game of the season, regular season was 28-21. James Keenan, the Rematch was 26-7. So Northeastern, I mean, seems like they got their sea legs back. They beat South Columbus 56-21. Pasquotank Princeton, that's another high-scoring game. 95 points between those two teams.
Hereford loses by 60.
So
60. I'm not saying not expected that they lost, but just when I think of them, it's hard for me to think about some of the past and see something like that.
tell you what, Pender is a great team. To me, that's one of those sleepers.
Yeah.
One of the big sleepers there. Tell you what, next week, Lincolnton and Mountain Heritage, that's going to be a heck of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby and Mount Airy, those are two big games.
That's a big game right there. So, yeah, there's two big games. That's not a Walkertown and
Walkertown, and that's, by the way, it's Walkertown, not Walkerstown, but Walkertown, East.
Oh, I see there's an S in there. Okay. Yeah, Walkertown is that'll be a good game. West Davidson at North Stanley. Yeah.
And Aiden Grifton, that's where Aiden, North Carolina, is where my grandmother West was born. They're going to go over to Warsaw to play James Keenan. That's James Keenan should handle that game. Tell you what, Martin County is a team that I would look after. That's back in that's where Gaylord Perry and Jim Perry and the Perry brothers were from.
Mm-hmm.
Martin County is a good school. Okay, tell you what, we'll go over to the 4A, see what we got here.
I think it's okay, no surprise.
I got to tell you, that Stuart Kramer Bandy's game, that's the one that I thought was going to be good.
That surprised me. Well, but I did not think Stuart Kramer would win that game, though. I picked Bandy's, personally in my mind, I had Bandy's winning that. But
Gary, let me ask you this as a former coach. When you win the game 60-49 and you're playing a pretty decent team, how do you feel after allowing 49 points but scoring 60?
Well, I'm sitting there thinking, how can they score that many points? And you have to be scoring on special teams. You have to score defensive touchdowns.
Uh-huh.
And I think I'm sitting here trying, all of these classifications with these high scores, I'm saying to myself, how are they scoring so many points? And all these teams are supposed to be, playoff level. And I'm thinking it has to do with matchups, in that they are playing a style that the opponent is totally unfamiliar with. And when you say, for example, if you're playing a single wing team or wing T team, and I mean you have a scout team in practice, and you draw up plays and you show the scout team the card and you say you run this, but of course, that's the first time they've ever seen it. They don't really know how to run it. They're just kind of imitating it as best they can. And then when you see it in a game, and there's so many nuances and adjustments that coaches can make based on how the opponent is defending them, as to the blocking angles and that type of thing, that the defenses seem like they're just totally confused. And with scores like that, you got to have a lot of quick drives. You got to have 2-3 play drives, big plays, kickoff. The other team is scoring in 3 or 4 plays. They kick off. The other team is scoring in 1 or 2 plays. It's got to be a ton of possessions to have that many points in these games. And I think a lot of it has to do with style of play.
Right. Totally get that. It's all about that. Tell you what we'll do. We'll go on to look a little bit more on the East. Or actually, we'll go to 5A real quick. Gosh, look at that Crest Concord game, 69-6. East Lincoln, wow. J.M. Robinson, wow.
I thought Wes Henderson might put up more. I picked East Lincoln, but I thought Wes Henderson might have a little bit more. Look at that Franklin Forest Hills. Wow.
Yeah, that I thought Franklin would win that game.
I did too.
I did. But
14,
a little bit
13.
surprised though by the score. I thought it'd be a little bit more scoring for both teams. We're just talking about how we saw so many high scoring games. Also, when we see a 14-13, we're kind of shocked.
Yeah.
That goes back to like the 70s when that was about the average score in a football game was like 14.
That was or something. Listen, when you got up into the teens, you rarely saw scores into 20s when I played. That was, Gary too.
I remember going to Texas. I was coaching high school football here in North Carolina, but I remember going to Texas. I used to make an annual trip to Texas to go to a Cowboy game, and I also had a friend, close friend, who was coaching with the Texas Longhorns. So I would look at the high school scores in Texas, and and not look at the stats, just kind of wanting to compare them to North Carolina high school football. And so these were scores out of Dallas and scores out of Austin, and the score would be like 49-3, and you would look at the statistics, and the team that scored 3 only threw the ball 2 times. And I'm like, you had to have been behind. So quite naturally, in my way of thinking, you got to throw to catch up.
All right.
And they just wouldn't change. They just kept running, wishbone or veer or whatever running offense they ran, and they tried to come back that way. And so a lot of these scores remind me of things I saw in the 90s, because the forward pass was kind of foreign to schools in Texas, in the mid 90s, late 90s. They didn't start throwing until the 2000s. And this is how their scores used to look on Friday night in Texas, and you look at statistics, and nobody was throwing the ball. Everybody was running.
Look at those third round games next week. East Lincoln at Crest. Dale, that's a good game to go to right there. Monroe at South Point. So I think South Point will win that game. In the East, Havelock at Croatan. That's going to be a good game. And that last game, that Southern Nash at Hunt, that's going to be a good game too. I mean, there's a lot of good third round matches. I think this is where we're going to stop seeing these blowouts, or at least not as many blowouts as we have in the first 2 rounds.
I picked Eastern Alamance to win tonight.
I think Eastern's probably a year away. Coach Kirby came back. He was a longtime coach at Eastern Alamance, and he retired only to come back, and he was the coach this year. If he comes back this coming year, I think you'll see some more improvement from Eastern Alamance.
Well, I think out of this, where we change the page, that Franklin Hickory could be an interesting ball game too, man.
I can see that. I think Hickory will win by a couple scores.
Well, I think Hickory wins the game, but I think that could be interesting. East Lincoln and Chick Crest. Wow, that's 2 juggernauts right there.
Oh, I agree. Rocky Mount at Northeast Guilford's going to be a good one. St. Paul's at Jacksonville Northside. All those games are going to be good. I don't think they're going to have a blowout in any of those. All right, let's go ahead and look at the 6As, and after that, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit. Tell you what, Ashbrook Statesville, that game kind of surprised me. I thought that was going to be not. I just didn't see that score being 22-14. Any thoughts, guys?
I kind of initially thought it could be a good game because I was thinking about going to it last week when we did the OT show. That was one, but I thought Ashbrook would win that game by 2 scores, 2 to 3 scores, and thus really the only reason I changed. I'll say why I changed my game decision later, but I'm not shocked that the score is that close.
Okay. Tell you what, Dudley
Surprised,
Ash
yes, not shocked.
Catholic all over AC Reynolds. Dudley, that's a pretty
That's a
good program.
surprise.
Yeah, I thought that game was going to be. Actually, I thought Dudley was going to win, but I thought it was going to be a
I'm talking about the
really
Catholic.
close.
Talking about the
Catholic
Reynolds.
AC Reynolds, gotcha.
Yeah.
Freedom
I
all
thought
over
that game would be
Central.
closer. Catholic and AC Reynolds.
I agree with you. Sun Valley Olympic, we're going to talk about that game later on. There's something that happened that we'll discuss later on here.
So Kings Mountain won, though.
Yeah.
Kings Mountain. I'm sorry. I'm not jumping back on the bandwagon.
That's one of those teams that's like, okay, they're over with, and all of a sudden, gosh, they're still with us, Next week they're going to play at Northern Guilford. And that's a game I probably will attend. I'll probably go to that game next week.
Oh, really?
I've never seen Kings Mountain play before.
Yeah, as you know, for a long time I was a Kings Mountain fan. So they always let me down. What about down there in the east?
Look at Union Pines all over Lee County, 35-0. Yeah. Brian Till, he is my man.
Just keeps winning.
That Scotland County good. Terry Sanford's was a good game there. Earlier on in the season, I thought Terry Sanford might be the team to beat in the 6A East because they beat the 71st by a couple points the first, I think, second week of the season, and 71st still with us. They beat South Johnson 20-3. That 6A East is wide open. I do like. I really do like Union Pines. I know that they've never been to a regional championship even, but I can see them going to the state championship this year. Northern Nash is another team that's really good. Scotland, that's a big name, good coaching. So next week, Catholic at Watauga. Gary, have you been to a game at Watauga before?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. I don't like cold weather.
I passed by it a couple of weeks ago when I was up at Appalachian State's homecoming, and I watched the game between Mallet Creek and Watauga last season when they had all those penalties. But I've never attended a game at Watauga.
Chris and I went up to watch West Charlotte play Watauga in 2006. That's my only time I've been to Watauga. And, of course, I picked an extremely cold night to go.
Yeah. The only time I'd see Watauga play in the mountains, if all of a sudden it was like they were playing games in July. I don't like cold weather. So there's going to be some pretty good matchups next week, though. Dudley at Ashbrook. I'd like to see what Dudley can do. Dudley seems like they've gotten stronger as the season progressed.
Yeah, I'm still behind Ashbrook, but
maybe not as much.
Power rankings, Sun Valley's the number one team in 6A, and sure showed it tonight. And I like Sun Valley too. I think Sun Valley and Ashbrook are going to match up against, or they're going to hit each other.
Yeah, they actually would play in the final week of the season, or not final week of the season. They'll play in the regional finals. My fault. Getting tired here, Jim. So we all definitely got some good games in the West and the East. Tell you what, we're going to switch around a little bit. We're going to look at the private schools next. That Charlotte Christian Raven Gap, I was surprised. I thought Raven Gap was going to win that game for some reason.
That's a shocker to me.
I don't think it's a shocker. Maybe a little surprise, but I said this last week, Jim.
Yeah.
A Christian's a good football team, and they've already proven they can play with Raven Gap. Now, their matchup next week's not going to be too good for them, but
look at that score, 55-48,
103 points.
God, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Defense is just texted in their place.
These
You know, there's
scores,
there's literally no D in either one of those schools' names, so that's probably the problem right there.
Oh, there isn't.
If this wasn't a football show, I would swear
That was a
that we were
basketball
looking
score.
at basketball scores tonight.
Exactly. I agree with you.
So Asheville School beats Trinity 31-14. High Point Christian beats Harold's Christian 56-0. I know High Point Christian has a good team. From what I gathered, I think Providence Day and High Point Christian might be looking at state championships in the NCISAA.
I would say they are inside favorites. Yeah, I can't remember Jimmy the Creek, what Jimmy the Creek would say about this. Yeah. These are easy games to pick, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially that first one.
So I wonder what we got next coming up here. We got 7A. That Jack Brett Davie County game, that was I thought it was going to be a pretty close one there. I think I saw one prediction where Brett was favored by maybe 4 or 6 points, and that was pretty close. Oh gosh, West Cabarrus, that season's over with.
Wasn't Porter Ridge up on Richmond at the half? I know they were leading one time.
They were up. In fact, somebody tweeted, it might have been Observer Preps again. Upset alert. Somebody was calling it because they were up by 14 points, I think it was.
And Richmond Senior scored in the last minute to win that game. It was a comeback from behind. We had some discussion about A.L. Brown, whether we thought they might match up pretty good against Reagan. Well, Reagan had different ideas tonight, all over A.L. Brown, 42-7.
Yeah. And, I don't care how much of a rival game it is. It's a big rival game. I knew that Weddington score would not be good. I didn't think it would be that bad. I didn't think Marvin Ridge would score, but I kind of was thinking, Weddington might beat them 48-0, 49-0, something like that. Wow. Mooresville, that was to be expected. I think that's a respectable score, all things considered. There's no good losses, I know, coaches. But that was a tough matchup, I think. Mooresville's a good team. That's a very, very good football team.
I see 4 really special teams there. 2 very special, Grimsley and Weddington, and then 2 special ones with Independence and Mooresville. I could see any one of those 4 teams win. I still, right now, my money's on Weddington.
Mine too.
But Independence is kind of a wild card. That seems like they've gotten better and better and better as the season progressed. And that's something that I've always said that about DJ the last couple of years. Seems like his teams get better as the season progresses.
Well, and green and yellow on green and yellow. We've seen that a lot in the past. Back here in the 2000s, we saw it.
Today I saw in the East, I saw Hillside play Ashley, and I saw Hillside play earlier on the season against E.E. Smith. And this Hillside team looks bigger. So help me, they look like they've gained maybe 12 to 15 pounds on the line per person. They look taller. They are faster. They have probably at least 4 interceptions tonight. And one of them, the last interception, the guy caught it probably 4 yards in the end zone and ran it all the way back for a touchdown. And I mean, it was like, it was Marvin Lewis or whatever the famous sprinter was back in the 80s. I mean, he was booking it. That Hillside team, though, they play a just lights out defense. That is a nasty defense. And
I'm going to step. Go ahead if you got more to say.
I was going to say Hillside is one of my favorite places to go to. They got the best food. Got to mention food here, man. Got to mention food. If you ever had oxtail, great thing to eat.
um, we skipped over that Lake Norman East Forsyth.
Yeah,
I think that's a good win for Lake Norman.
well, I think so too.
So Weddington's a tall task at Lake Norman.
Well, how about Scott Chadwick's team, Clayton?
Yeah, 29.
They're still in there. I'll let you guys know Cleveland did beat South Gardner. It was something like 65-3. I don't think we have a score right now, but Cleveland did win that game.
Jim, if they had not won that game,
Yeah,
I might have to be carried up to the hospital.
yeah, exactly. I think we've heard some type of explosion by now. You know what? Next week in the 7A, that Richmond Senior at Independence, that should be a good game. I think
Green.
Independence wins that game, but I think that's still going to be a good game.
I like
Oh,
Independence. I like
I like
Independence.
Independent. I do too. I like Independence. Richmond is kind of surprising me though. I mean, here they are late. They're still alive. But I like Independence too.
The other game I might go to is that Jack Brett at Grimsley. I like going to Grimsley. That's one of the best stadiums ever.
It is a nice stadium. It really is. That's an electric atmosphere too. They have great fan support.
You know, a team in the East that I have not really talked about the whole season is Cape Fear. Here they are 10-1. They're going to play at Gardner. I think Gardner's going to win that game. They play in a very tough conference with Clayton, Cleveland, and Southeast Raleigh. That's just a loaded conference. And then after you get done with that, you have South Gardner and Fuquay. So that's going to be a really good one here. All righty. Let's see what we have next on the next line here. 8A looks a lot smaller because we're in week 3. Oh gosh, look at those blowouts in the West. Huff, Fowler Palisades, Myers Park over Chambers.
Three blowouts into one game, and I'm not surprised that there were 3 blowouts, and I'm not surprised because I said the best game would be that West Forsyth Mallard Creek game.
You called it on Sunday. The exact results. I mean, not the exact score, but you said it wouldn't be but one competitive game in the West, and you were right.
Exactly. Yep. And West Forsyth pulls that out. You were at that game, right, Gary?
Yeah, I went to that game, and Mallard Creek turned the ball over three possessions in the first quarter, and West Forsyth capitalized on it. Other than that, the game was fairly even. After the first quarter, as I told you guys off camera, it was a ton of penalties on both teams, and the game never really got any rhythm to it. I can't recall 3 plays in a row where there wasn't a penalty flag. And it wasn't one-sided; it was both teams. Pre-snap penalties. A lot of holding, a lot of blocking in the back, a couple of interference. No face man, not the big 15-yard variety. There were a couple of interference penalties. Thing I don't like about high school is interference is not an automatic first down.
Right.
In high school, you when you coach defensive backs in high school, you tell a kid, hey, if you feel like you're getting beat, you better give up a touchdown, interfere with them, because it's not an automatic first, and it's not a spot foul like
not a spot foul, exactly.
NFL is a spot foul. In college, at least it's an automatic first. It's neither in high school, and it was just the game was just slow. Because with the flags, there were a lot of official conferences. Okay, if you're going to call a penalty, call it. Let the white hat know. Announce it. spot the ball, let's play. But it was like a conference after every other penalty. They had to discuss it, have to give an explanation to the coaches, and then they had to mark it off. And it's like, 2-3 minutes between plays. It was monotonous.
So it was very similar for me, Gary. Lots of flags, conferences, conversations with the coaches, the head coaches, other coaches. There was a lot of that. I don't know how closely they mirror each other, the two games in that regard, but I can tell you we had lots of flags ourselves. And as I've already told you guys, I named it the flag after the birds. So the flags after the movie The Birds. Our game, as you can see, was 41-0. Could have been. There weren't so many penalties. So there's a pick six that did not get registered. There were 3 pick sixes tonight, but one of them. Look at that play. Did you see that move? That step back. That's a Hollywood Smothers move. Hollywood's the first one that I've seen do that. West Charlotte really moved the ball well when they didn't have penalties. Their defense played phenomenal. Again, when they didn't have penalties, it was just up and down all around. That's the last pick six. That pick six, unfortunately, West Charlotte got all the players came down to the 10-yard line to celebrate with him, and of course they got a penalty on that. I talked to Sam about that after the game, and there's another pick
nasty
six.
Defense. That's a nasty defense. I'm
gonna tell you, this is a good defensive team. They really played well tonight. Again, I think there were 2 touchdowns that are not on the board because of penalties. Oh yeah, did you see that last highlight, folks?
Yeah,
that was a kicked point after. So gotcha. West Charlotte has got their that was West Charlotte's weak point at the first part of the season was they couldn't
make an extra point.
They couldn't make extra points. Now they can. The kid kicks good, and you know what else? Their kickoff kicker, he puts the ball pretty deep. Now he's not an out of the end zone or into the end zone kicker. At least he wasn't doing that tonight, but he's a good kicker. He puts the ball back to where Providence was starting at if there were no penalties involved, and there were some. I saw there was what was it, 4th and 45, something like that tonight. I mean, that's just a reference of A, how many penalties, and B, how well West Charlotte's defense played. But for the most part, Providence had to start around their 20 off of every kickoff.
Let me ask you something, Dale. These officiating crews they're not all-star crews, are they? Are they crews that work together every Friday night? The same.
So the way the crews work, and just another note, last week at Olympic, I told you guys we had officials running the chains. So what happened last week, and it happened this week, is that the guy that runs the officiating crew, and I'm sorry, he said he watches our show. I'm sorry, I forgot your name again. He's the head of the officiating. He said that they offered officials to all the schools last week if they needed any help to run chains. And so West Charlotte had them tonight. So they had on the chain crew real officials. This is Gary, this is the last week that we will have local officials. So in other words, when everybody around the state this week, the officiating crew came from the home team's normal association of crews. Next week, they will come from out of region. So people may drive 2 to 3 hours to officiate a game. I do think that, or I do know that officials are graded. And I know from the past of talking to the guy who ran the association here in Charlotte. I talked to Rodney about this, and he said that they always tried to place together the best crews, and maybe people who had worked together as well, so they can communicate with each other. But they try to put together the best crews for the most important games. So that would be like during the regular season. And then as we get into playoffs, we've got fewer games that this crew or this group of officials is being pulled from, so they can pick their better officials. My assumption is that they did pick the better officials. I don't know that, but that's an assumption.
As a basketball coach, anytime I saw the supervisor of officials walk in the gym, I knew it was going to be a long game because the officials call everything when they're being evaluated. They don't want to be marked down for missing a call that the supervisor thinks they should have made. And to me, I always believe officiating should be advantage, disadvantage. Does what a player does it give them an unfair advantage, or does it put the opponent at a disadvantage? Not because one player is more skilled than the other, but like holding. You can call
you're
holding.
speaking physical penalties,
right?
PIs and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, if you got a team that's jumping off sides all the time, you got to call that. Okay, and it was a lot of pre-snap penalties tonight. But even some of the pre-snap penalties on the offense, I was like, what? I mean, it was stuff like somebody goes in motion and there's a shift and they didn't set for a full 1 second or something like that. It's stuff that really didn't have a bearing on the game. And what irritates me more than anything are penalties that don't affect the outcome of the play.
Exactly.
Away from the play.
I agree with
a hold away from the play, that kind of stuff.
Let's go ahead and get back to the card we just had on here just a second ago. About the final dates, sites and dates for the games, state championship games. I'm interested about the Thursday and Friday games at 4 p.m. That is just crazy. Usually it's nothing but 8 o'clock games on Friday nights. We never had Thursday night championship games, at least since I've been around. And I've never seen a 4 o'clock game on Friday. It's always been 8 o'clock.
Let me tell you something. On the University of North Carolina's campus, there is no parking at 4 o'clock on Friday or Thursday. I don't know where they're going to put these people. Because the university, the people that work at the university, they don't leave until 5, most of them.
Right.
And it's not like they're taking public transportation to the campus. And it's just not a whole lot of parking, because unless the exams are over and the students are gone,
I don't think that's usually. I think when I was in school, at least back in the Stone Ages, heck, I remember one year we stayed until the 20th, but usually it was more like the 16th, 15th, or the 16th or so.
Well, see, Jim, I'm older than you, and I got out first week of December when I was in school.
Oh, really? Wow.
In Chapel Hill, we used to be done the first week of December.
Gosh, you're lucky on that.
But we had a 6-week winter break. between.
Gosh, we had like 3 weeks if we were lucky.
Yeah, we had 6. So,
Guys,
but
and you know how lucky you were.
but
So
the I'm like, where's the parking gonna be at 4 o'clock at Carolina? Carolina's already a hard place to park, and Saturdays is easy for football, but
right.
well, I guess if you only got 3,000 people coming in, maybe that's it's not in comparison to a basketball game or a football game. But I was just thinking, when 4 o'clock and the university is still open and classes are still going on at 4 o'clock, that's gonna be different. Put it that
Well,
way.
also, if you got students that are actually packing to go home for the winter, I mean, it's not quite as bad as the spring, mind you, but still it can be pretty bad. Tell you what we'll do. Let's talk about another subject tonight: the ejections. Had something that unfortunately happened over at the Olympic Sun Valley game tonight. Let's look at this statement from Coach Thompson.
Emotions are hard to control. It's hard for young people.
That he had to explain to him what happened, so the incident, I mean the quote, will have meaning as to why he said it.
Well, it looks like there was some after the game or during the game. Some of the students, the opposing students, were heckling or taunting the Olympic football players, and after the handshake, I think from I read 6-7 players decided to go into the stands. There was, I think they broke it up before any punches were thrown. I might be wrong about that, but unfortunate incident. But to me, there's not one person is right and one person is wrong. First thing, you got to have good sportsmanship, and I don't care if it's the football players, it's also the people in the stands. Sometimes when you run your mouth off, there are consequences about it, and it makes a lot of people look bad.
Well, in this situation, Jim, I think without question, the players were wrong. I don't put this. Fans always do this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and it's not. I mean, Gary's going to tell us about an adult in a minute. This stuff happens all the time, but players are taught discipline and to be disciplined. And hopefully they're taught to control their emotions, because the worst thing that can happen to a player in a game is to let their emotions overtake their skills, their technique,
right.
and they start making mistakes. And so emotions have to be under control. So I'm going to say without question, the players were in the wrong.
And you were speaking of emotions, Dale. Prior to us coming on the air, I was watching the conclusion of the Clemson and Louisville game in the fourth quarter, and this is a 1-point game. And Louisville got 2 or 3 personal fouls, that cost them the opportunity to win. One of them put them out of field goal range, and I think one of them, I can't remember what the other one was, but it hurt their opportunity to win in a 1-point game, because they were happening on crucial plays like third down. You get a stop, and then you got somebody that does something after the whistle, and now instead of it being fourth down, it's first down. And something like that. I don't know how you coach players not to be that way.
Right.
Football is an emotional game, because of the physicality of it.
As long as we won't have like a Malice in the Palace. You remember that one from the?
Yeah. But it's tough when a personal foul costs you a possession. I'm not gonna say it costs you the game, because the game lost last 4 quarters, but it may cost you the opportunity to win a game.
There was a fight at the game after the game was over. There was a fight in the stands at the Hillside Ashley, and it was with Ashley's fans. And it was a grown man. He was probably about my age, probably at least in his mid-50s or so. And he attacked a football player for Ashley and then turned around and attacked another Ashley football player. There was about 2 or 3 football players that had to pin him down. And next thing you know, he was in handcuffs. And this was something those players, they were cooling off. They were, getting their stuff to go back to the buses. It's a long drive from Durham to Wilmington, and having a grown man, an Ashley fan, do that to his own players. You just have to think, what is going through people's minds, and everybody said the player didn't say anything to him, that the guy was just out of control, went after him. And then when another player tried to defend his player, which I have no problem with that. If you, I was always taught, if you have a friend that's in trouble, you help them. And anyway, it was a very, very bad situation on that. I just wanted to point out that we gotta think as a society. There's consequences to bad behavior, and just because you got a ticket to go to a game, you need to start acting like you have some sense.
Yeah, in the game I attended, towards the very end, Mallard Creek's trying to make a comeback. One adult is yelling at, he's frustrated. He's pulling hard for Mallard Creek. He's frustrated, and they're not moving the ball, and he's yelling about the play of another kid. I'm assuming it was a quarterback, but I don't know for sure because I kind of turned. I didn't see how it started. I just saw the Mallard Creek coaches who were up with the headsets, who were up beside the press box. They weren't in the press box. They were beside it. They were motioning for security to get somebody. So that's when I turned to look, and, there's 2 adults, a man and a woman, arguing. And they removed the man. Now, I don't know. I don't think, at least I hope it wasn't about to be physical. I heard another parent who was sitting in front of me, whose son played, said, those are football parents. And you would say, well, how can people act like that? And it just hit me, the parent that was sitting in front of me, she was telling me her son had committed to a certain school. I'm trying not to give away who it is, but she was like, her son committed to a certain school, but he's still getting offers from another school. And I thought about it. To these parents, they're living through their kids, and they're living financially. They invest a lot into this. These camps they go to, all the stuff they have to get, the gear, even though you don't buy a uniform, there's so much, the shoes, the stuff you wear. You invest a lot in your kid when they play sports. And then what you're hoping is the investment is going to pay off into an athletic scholarship. Okay. So, if your kid plays receiver and your kid has you think they have the talent to play at the next level, but they're playing with a quarterback, they can't get them the ball. Or they're playing with an offensive lineman that can't block, so the quarterback can make an accurate throw because the quarterback's always under pressure, running for his life. Those kind of things build up in the parents. They get frustrated and they say something because they feel like their kid is not getting a fair opportunity because of another kid on the same team. And we know how much college costs today. And, a scholarship helps everybody, And the number of scholarships going to high school kids has drastically declined because of the transfer portal.
The portal, yep.
Yeah.
No.
So, what used to be, let's just say 50 kids out of Charlotte getting a football scholarship, now it might be 30 because those other 20 scholarships are going to transfer kids, And so I think that builds up in the parents and they get frustrated because they're living through the kid. They're thinking about the investment and they're hoping the investment in high school will pay off in college. I went through it, not the frustration part, but as a head coach, I had a lot of kids that got scholarships. And then I had my own kid that's coming up as an athlete. And now I'm thinking, all right, I helped. I'm never going to say I got a kid a scholarship, but I helped plenty of kids get a scholarship. And then when my kid was a senior, I'm thinking, okay, it's time to get my kids some free money. And I even stepped down as a football coach so I could devote 100% of my time, because my daughter was a basketball player, to helping her get a basketball scholarship, which she did. But this is before the transfer portal, so I know this is exacerbated now that there are not as many scholarships and college is more expensive and the federal government has cut, so much education funding, and it's just, it boils over when parents think their kid is not getting a fair opportunity. And that's where the frustration comes.
Exactly.
Well said. There's a lot of frustrations on there. I'll tell you what, as you said, that's a societal issue. Money. There's always, you want the best for your kids. So thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Dale, it's about this time. We're going to look at some high school picks of the week.
See how we did. Yeah. Okay. We did all right.
So Gary picked Catholic.
Didn't do all right.
South Valley Ashburn. Gary, you ran the course, didn't you? You ran it.
Did I go 6-0?
You went 6-0, looks like.
I went 6-0. And really, I thought this was the toughest one because, when you start playing outside the Charlotte metropolitan area, I don't know these other teams. I know Cabarrus, Union County, Mecklenburg, of course, maybe a little bit of Iredell, Rowan. But after that, you
don't know Stanley, do you?
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you ever have Stanley on here, just give me a call. I'll give you some good advice.
I didn't even know who Stanley was. I was like, I said, that's the home team.
I grew up in that county. I still don't know who it is. So anyway.
So I think this might be my second out of 12, 13 weeks that I've gone 6-0. Because I've been in third or fourth all season. That's maybe fifth. As competitive as I am, I was like, man, this is going like my fantasy.
You know what happened? You know what happened to me, Gary, is when I started out, I didn't take it serious, and I was falling behind. And I'm competitive as hell, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta start putting some effort into this.
Yeah, and the first year Langston asked me to make picks. I think it was the year after we had the COVID season. And he started, and the first time I won it. The first year I made picks, I won the regular season. And I haven't won it since. And I expect to lose to Chris because he knows every team in town. And it was so funny when Chris he texted, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was like, man, he said, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm falling behind. I'm on a losing streak. And I said, Chris, you're getting ready to get married. You're not paying attention anymore. And,
well, and then Chris made some, I think, good risk picks, but I think Chris did the right thing to also attempt to keep pace, and so he made a couple of picks that I don't think were high risk. In other words, I think that
Safe.
they were games that certainly could go the way he was picking. So I fully understood them when I saw the picks. I'm like, yeah, if I'm wanting to peg a game and I know a few things about that team, I might would pick them. So
Yeah, and I had
he's still right there though. Look,
yeah,
I mean,
I had a couple of games early in the season that were kind of sentimental picks, and I try to stay away from sentimental picks, but
me too.
uh, there were a couple of weeks.
Geringer.
Hopewell was in there. Yeah, Garinger. I'm
I
real
did a
close.
Garinger. I did a
Yeah,
Garinger.
I'm real close with Jupiter, and I wanted to give his kids something positive to believe in and to look at, and then I work at Hopewell 4 out of 5 days a week, either substituting or teaching driver's ed, and so I see those kids every day, and I see some of the coaches every day, and I always ask them. I say, "What the film look like this week?" "Oh, we think we can get them. I think we can get them." They've had that attitude every week, and
Right.
sometimes I fail for it if I like the kid, and like I said,
For
I know the
Hopewell.
coaching staff. Yeah,
Well,
So
well, we
Brandon,
do this, we do that, and I would go ahead and pick them, and then they would get beat.
I was going to
Gary,
say if you want to do some
Brandon will be.
if you want to
Huh?
beat Dell, just start selecting Thomasville. He'll do some sentimental picks on Thomasville.
I love Thomasville. I'm telling you, Brandon's going to be on next week. Brandon Sneed.
Okay. Sounds good.
Um,
Dale, let's go ahead. We've got an hour in. Let's go ahead and get your final thoughts on here.
I don't even know where to start with this.
That's dangerous.
Really, my thoughts on it. I do not want to do another about having limited games. Really, what changed what I was thinking about, I would talk about tonight, is seeing the statement from Coach Thompson about what happened with the Olympic players and them going over the fence to go to the student section. And that's just, it reminded me immediately of a Myers Park, South Mex situation that occurred back a few weeks ago or a few years ago.
2 years
Where
ago,
we had a big fight after the game, and players have got to what I want to say, my thoughts on this are you're supposed to be disciplined, and you've got to be disciplined. You got to control your emotions. You get talked trash on the field worse than any fans talk to you. I know, I hear it. I'm at games on the sidelines and I hear what y'all say to each other. So, you can't say that something that is occurring up in the stands triggers you more than what's happening with that player that's lined up across from you. You've learned to manage that. You've got to manage this throughout, because what has potentially happened to you, especially the leader of this, is that you may have hurt yourself recruiting wise. So if you had shots at recruiting, uh, in a day and age where Gary mentioned it, parents are putting money in to make their kids athletically better. Going to trainers, going to specialist coaches, learning to throw, learning to run, learning to do all this stuff. We're getting to a point that, as I used to tell kids, when you might be the best in high school, but when you get to college, everybody was the best on their high school team. It may have been the best in their city. So you start leveling out. And then when you get to the NFL, everybody's good. Now we see NFL players that are greatly better than others, but the difference is real small. And what you've got to understand is, now in a recruiting age where everybody is learning at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, we're starting to train kids to play football. And it comes up time for your turn to potentially get recruited, and you got all these kids that can run 4.5s, and if you're a quarterback and can throw and can do all these things, recruiters got to look for other reasons to recruit you as well. Are you able to come into the school? So academics become a critical thing. Can we get you into the school? Do we want you into the school? Are you going to be a distraction in our program? Are you going to cause issues on the team? Can you work with your teammates? Can you control yourself emotionally? So if there's two players, a team is looking at you and is looking at another player, and they go down their checklist and they say, well, both of these guys are pretty much the same athletically. What's different about them? What is different about them that we should pick this one over this one? And if you took part in that climbing over the fence, it'll be known. It'll be known to recruiters, especially if you're being recruited right now. And it's going to hurt you. You as players have got to think about how you conduct yourself, not just between the whistles, but after the game is over. Before the game starts, you've got to conduct yourself better. Think about it. Any player, you got to think about this. You got to get better up here. You got beaten a mind game tonight by fans sitting up in the stands. Do I think Myers Park and West Charlotte will be limited? The game's played at Myers Park, no. If it's played at West Charlotte, yes. And I hate to say that, but I said it last week, and I'm still right on that boat. CMS, you're giving us no reason to think that you're doing nothing but targeting West Charlotte, and you won't tell us why you're targeting them. But no, a game's not going to be limited at Myers Park. Never. That'll never happen. Never, ever, 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 ever. And Myers Park a higher seed. I don't remember seeds here, guys.
West Charlotte's 2, so the game will be at West Charlotte.
Oh, it's at West Charlotte. I'm sorry. Okay, see, I've got all the seeds out of my head. The game will be limited.
Yeah.
They're gonna stab West Charlotte in the back again and kill their financials again. You watch it.
Oh gosh, I just got a message here. Said yes, that's a great idea to limit it, and it's signed Jimmy the Greek, John Rocker, Adolph Rupp, and the 1966 Kentucky men's basketball team. Oh my gosh, I disagree. I think it's a bad idea to limit it, but
to limit the West Charlotte game, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. All right, guys. There's a lot of times you can catch up with us again. We have talking preps all through the week. I know we have a show on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, players of the week. You can see it right here. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And we were with Charlotte Observer and the News and Observer.
Hey, YouTube and ESPN reached an agreement tonight. I get my multi-view back tomorrow.
All right.
And good luck to the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls.
Well, they're going to be in Durham tomorrow.
Yeah.
I might go to that game.
CIAA championship since 1969.
Guys, can you see the screen? On the left, we're vertical. In the center here, we're horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
So we can play on Instagram, and I think we're playing on Instagram tonight. Cool. I was told that we were going to. We need this vertical to get onto certain platforms like TikTok and Instagram. So it worked. Our producer made it work. All right.
Well, from Jim West, Gary Richmond, and Dale Ross, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll catch up with you again later on time next week. Take care.
See you guys.